Hello everyone, welcome back to another video on my YouTube channel. This video is part of the YouTube series that I'm making called Zero to Hero Business Central. In this series, I already uploaded few videos on my YouTube channel. In this particular video, we are going to learn about pass parameters by value and pass parameters by reference. So if you see the definition of pass parameters by value, the changes done on a variable in a call function will not be reflected back to the calling function. And if you see the definition of pass parameters by reference, the changes done on a variable in called function will be reflected back to the calling function. So do not worry about what is called function, what is calling function, and what are the operations that are done on variable in called function that will not be reflected to the calling function. We are going to see all of this in action in code, so do not worry about that. So if you come over here in Business Central, we have this page called Employee Setup, which we have created in our previous videos. In this particular employee setup page, I'm going to create one more action called pass parameters, and I'm actually going to write the logic for pass parameters by value and pass parameters by reference behind that particular action. So let me actually go to my Visual Studio Code. Here you can see I'm currently in the employee operations code unit, but we also have our employee setup page. So first what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to create one action button called pass parameters. So let me actually write it that pass parameters, and in here let me actually use this particular code, but we don't need this particular code because we are going to create our own procedure in employee operations code unit. So let me go to employee operations code unit and let me go at the end, and in here let me actually create one more procedure called pass parameter. So let me use my shortcut, the procedure or snippet. Let me make it as internal and let me call the procedure as pass parameters, and let me actually remove this particular code because I don't need that code for now. So let me actually call this procedure from our employee setup page. Let me go in here, let me take this and let's say pass parameters. In here you can see I have called the function, so this is a calling function, and if you see this becomes a called function. So this is a called function because it is getting called, and this is a calling function because we are calling some other function. So now let us actually see what is called by value and call by reference. So first let us actually see what is called by value. So basically I'm going to create one more variable called number, and let's just say it as an integer, and let me put some value inside number. Let me say number equals to 10. Now here you can see I have put the value 10 in the number, and let me actually print that value. So let me come over here and let me say message, the value before passing to the code unit is 10, and let me actually copy this and let me put it over here, the value of the number after passing to the code unit and number. So let me actually take this code, but this was not accepting any code. So let me go in here to the employee operations code unit. Let me take the number as parameter, and now let me do number equals to 20. So let me go from where it is getting called to the employee setup page. Now here basically you can see what we did was first we have created our number as an integer and we have passed the value as 10. After that we are showing that to the user before passing it to the this procedure called pass parameters. After that we are again printing the value. So basically here you can see I am passing it as a value. So if I go in here you can see I am taking it as a parameter, but this time we are taking it as pass by value, and I'm actually putting 20 into number. In pass by value, as we have seen the definition, whatever the changes that are done to the variable in the called function, so this is a called function, will not be reflected back to the calling function. So basically I am passing the value 10, but in here I am actually putting 20, but that will not be reflected back to the calling function, which is over here. So let me actually publish this and let us actually see that in action in the UI, so we can have a better understanding. So basically, if I go to my business central, let me refresh this once, and now let me actually click on pass parameters. So the value of the number variable before passing to the code unit is 10, because we are actually printing this message, and now we are actually passing this value, and here we are making it 20, but that will not be reflected back to the calling function that is over here. So let me go in here and let me click on OK. Now here you can see the value of the number variable after passing to the code unit is still 20. That is, whatever the changes that are done over here are not reflected back to the calling function that is done from here. So that is actually call by value. Let us see call by reference. There is a simple difference in terms of how you write the code. For call by reference, basically you need to define this parameter as a var. So now this becomes call by reference. That means whatever the changes that are done over here in the called function will be reflected back to the calling function that is over here. So that means firstly we are putting 10 into number and we are printing that, so it should print 10, and I'm passing the number to the pass parameters, but now it is accepting it as a reference, so it is changing the value to 20. That means whatever the changes done on number should be reflected back to the called calling function that is on here. So first it should print 10, after that it should print 20. So let me actually publish this and let us actually see that in the UI itself. So let me go to my business central again. Let me refresh this and reload. Now let me actually click on pass parameters. So first you can see the value of the number variable before passing to the code unit, which is this message, is basically it is giving us the 10. So that is correct. Now here you can see the value of the number variable after passing to the code unit is 20, because this time we have passed it as a reference. So that is how you can do with the variables, but we can also check the same with the records. So let me go to my business central. Let me go to employee page. So we have this employee page. In here you can see there are a couple of records. So first let us actually retrieve this particular record by doing get. So let me go in here. Let me actually do employee rec, and let me say record employee, that is employee table, and let me actually retrieve the record. So in here get, so the primary key is employee id, so let me just pass it 10. So it is going to retrieve us the employee record, this particular record with the primary key value as 10. So I'm going to get all of these values in that particular record. So let me actually remove all or let me just put the code just like that. So the value of name, let us actually change the name now. The value of name before passing to the code unit is, let me take this employee rec and let me just say now what is the variable name, which is employee name. So let me just say employee name. Let me take this and let me actually say the value of the name, sorry, should be name, and let me remove this and let me actually copy this and let me paste in here, and let's just remove this particular code. Let me go in, let me actually pass this as, yeah, and let me actually copy this. Let me go to here and let me paste this in here, and now what I'm going to do is, let me just say employee rec dot employee name, which is this. Let me take the employee name as, let's say, Rajat. So basically what we are doing now here is we are doing the same thing that we did with the variables, but now we are using the record. So basically what I did is I'm actually getting the record with the employee id 10, and I'm printing the employee name over here, and I'm passing that record as a values. Here you can see I did not give any var, so it is going to pass it as a value, and I'm changing the value of employee name to Rajat, but in pass by value it is not going to reflect back to the calling function. So whatever the operation that are done in the called function will not be actually reflected back to the calling function. So here what I should get is, basically I should get Tulsidas printed twice. So let me actually publish this and let us actually see that in the UI itself. So it is giving me the error. Why it is giving me the error? Because we have semicolon over here. So let me just remove that and let me publish this, and let us now see how that actually looks in the UI. So let me go in here, let me refresh this once, and now let me actually go to the employee setup, and let me actually click on the pass parameters. Here you can see the value of name before passing it to the code unit is Tulsidas, because this particular code is getting called, and after passing it also it is going to be the same. So let me go in here. Now here you can see the value of name after passing to the coordinate is still Tulsidas. But now let us see the example of pass parameter by reference. So I'm just going to do it as var, so I'm making it as pass by reference. So now let me publish this and let us see how that actually looks again. This time it should actually change the employee name. So let me go in here, let me refresh this once, and now let me actually click on pass parameters. Now here you can see the value of name before passing to the code unit is Tulsidas, but the value of name after passing to the code unit Rajat, because we have passed it as a reference. So that's all that we have about pass parameters by value and pass parameters by reference. I hope you found this video helpful for learning about pass parameters by value and pass parameters by reference. If so, please consider subscribing to my channel. I'll be uploading more videos in this particular series called Zero to Hero Business Central. If you don't want to miss them, you should definitely consider subscribing to my channel. Thank you.